Keyforge is a new card game by Richard Garfield and Fantasy Flight Games. This is not one of the trading card games, so you cannot craft decks in this. Instead, each deck is procedurally generated by an algorithm, which makes the game quite interesting. So, how do you get started? In order to play the game, you need a few things. You need one of the procedurally generated decks, you need something to play on, and you need someone to play with. Since this is a two-player game and it cannot be played solo, you can probably find tournament play at a local game store near you or ask them if there are any groups playing. So you've seen the core box online, but you cannot find it in a store and you feel left out and you don't know where to start. Because usually you need a core box to start playing. But do you actually need this one? Let's find out. We should take a look at what the box actually is, and in order to do that I want to compare it with some other products that Fantasy Flight Games has produced. The first one I want to compare it to is Arkham Horror. Arkham Horror is a card game that is called a living card game, which means that in each pack that you can buy, you always get the same cards, so it's not collectible in the sense that you can trade for cards and so on. And in this box you get pretty much everything you need to get started. So this is a core box. And you cannot really play any of the expansions without this box. So this one is needed in order to play the game. Because it contains cards that you will be needing for the other expansions that you cannot get anywhere else. The second game I want to compare it with is Star Wars Destiny. This box is the two-player starter set for Star Wars Destiny, and in this box you can find some cards that you cannot get in any of the booster packs that you can buy for Star Wars Destiny. But this is not a starter box like Arkham Horror. This isn't necessary to actually play the game. This box isn't needed to play the game, but it's a good way to get started with it. Since it contains two decks, one with Rey, the other one with Kylo Ren, and a couple of cards and dice that you need. It also contains the tokens that you would need, so that's a nice bonus as well. So we have the core box for Arkham Horror that is absolutely needed to play the game, and we have this two-player game starter pack for Star Wars Destiny that is a fun way to get started, but not needed. So how does the Keyforge box compare? Do you need it to play the game? Is there something in here that you cannot get anywhere else? Well, in order to find that out, we should actually open the box to see what's actually in here. As you can see, it's a standard size Fantasy Flight Games box. In it you get one of these advertisement booklets. We're just going to put that aside. You get this Quickstart guide. This one is not the complete rules. It is only for getting started, learning how to play a little bit. The full rules you can find online, but this one sets you up to start playing with the content in this box. You also get some tokens. These tokens are really nice, but they're not necessarily needed. You can use any kind of tokens. The rulebook says that as long as your opponent knows what the token represents, it's all fine. However, there are mentions of these key tokens using these colors for something in the future. We just don't know what yet. But they are double-sided, and the tokens, the key tokens, have color on one side and they're gray on the other side. This means that a key is not forged, and when you flip it over, the key is forged. What more do you get in this box? You get some more tokens. This is a stun token, and you get +1 power tokens. You also get chain trackers, which you can keep track of how many chains you have on your deck currently, since some cards in the game will give you chains. You also get 2 pre-constructed decks. These are not tournament legal because everyone that buys this box gets the exact same decks, which is not what Keyforge is about. And you also get 2 of these unique decks. These are unique in the sense that they are just like any other pack that you can buy. There's nothing special with the ones that come in these boxes. The only thing you get in these boxes that you cannot get anywhere else is these 2 decks. And you absolutely do not need these decks. They're really good to get started, and they're really good to play against each other because they are very well balanced. But the whole meat of the game is the unique deck. So, do you need this box? No, you don't need it. But we can rephrase the question. Should you buy this box? Absolutely. If you don't have tokens, the tokens are really nice. So you can keep track of your game state. Other than that, you're not getting anything that you can't get anywhere else. So the only thing you actually need to get started with the game is one of these. It's a $10 deck. You can get these at any local game store, and that is all you need to get started. Tokens you can use pretty much anything. And I mentioned Star Wars Destiny before, and since I've been playing Star Wars Destiny a little bit, you get the tokens in the boxes that you buy for the starter decks. So I use some of those tokens. I use these for Amber, and the only thing I'm actually using from the core set are these key tokens. When you want to start playing the game, there are a few spots where you should put your items, and the items that you need to put out are your ID card can go in the bottom right corner, your deck should go where it's easily reachable, your discard pile should be right next to your deck, your artifacts go on their own row, your creature goes on a row above the artifacts, and if you gain Amber, it goes on your ID card, and keys should be easily seen by your opponent, so an example is to put them just above the ID card. You should also keep in mind that you should always keep track of your Amber, and they should always be visible as well to your opponent. And the creatures in your top row should always be on one row, so they cannot overlap and go in 2 rows, because placement of these matter for the gameplay. When you start the game, you should shuffle up your deck, present it to your opponent for either cutting or more shuffling, and set up the game board. You should then determine if you or your opponent goes first, because the player who goes first gets an extra card in their starting hand, but they also only get to play 1 card. So let's say that we go first, we take 7 cards. These are the 6 plus the extra for starting the game. We look at these cards, and we can see that we have 4 Brobnar cards, 2 these and 1 shadow. When we look at these cards, we should find out which one we want to start the game with. And in this case, I'm actually going to start with the terror. So I take my first turn, I choose these, which is denoted here on the card. I play this, it comes in exhausted, and this card says if your opponent has no amber, gain 2 amber. So I chose to start with this just because of that, so I get 2 amber and I put them on the card. And then I have to pass the turn. And because I have 6 cards in my hand, I do not draw a card, because that is the last thing you do on your turn. You draw up to your hand size. Hand size is base 6, which means that you should have 6 cards in your hand if nothing else says otherwise. So in this case we do not draw a card. Our opponent plays, or we ready up the creature at the end of the turn, and then it's our opponent's turn. And when it comes to our turn again, we have to decide which cards we want to play. And this time we probably choose Drobnar, and we play them out in whatever order we want to. Gain any amber we should, we fight, we reap, we do whatever is necessary to win the game. And this is how you keep going back and forth until someone has enough forged keys to win. To forge a key, you need to have 6 amber in total. And at the start of your turn, the first thing you do each turn is to check if you can forge a key. In this case, we now have 6 amber, so we can forge a key. We get rid of these amber, we pay them, and then we forged one of our keys. When all of our keys are forged, we win the game. There is a lot to learn with Keyforge, but hopefully you now have a starting point. I recommend reading through the rulebook for most of the keywords that are in Keyforge, like skirmish and the difference between capturing and stealing amber, for example. A good idea is to keep the rulebook close at hand when you start playing your first few games, and start playing them against a friend, or going down to a local game store and telling them that you are new and you want to learn. Most players are friendly enough to teach you the game, because it's a cheap game to get into and it's a really fun game with lots of great card art. I will be linking some resources like the rulebook in the description below. Good luck on your new adventures in Keyforge.